Hey everybody, welcome back to Wicked Good Sports. As always, we have just a jam-packed show for you tonight. The first thing I would like to talk about is everything happening with Aaron Rodgers. So a week ago, we were doing a live stream to cover the draft. I'm thinking, hey, the draft is going to be the most important story that has to, happen right now. Extremely happy, by the way, that the Dolphins drafted Waddle, going to, I think, play very well for the Dolphins. And then, of course, getting Phillips a little bit later in the first round. Exciting stuff. Wish that they got a running back, but hey, we'll figure it out. We'll see what happens. But no, the NFL draft was somehow not the biggest new sports story, and not even the biggest NFL story of the day. That was, instead, Aaron Rodgers being quite disgruntled with the Green Bay Packers. There were rumors that the 49ers tried to trade for him. There were rumors that the Denver Broncos were going to trade for him very soon. And it really, really tore everything up. Ever since then, we've just been getting not hit pieces, but stories about Aaron Rodgers just hating the Green Bay Packers, hating their GM, just wanting out any way he can get. And it just seemed to come out of not necessarily nowhere, because he certainly seemed to, be disgruntled at the end of last season after the, kicked a field goal instead of going for it on fourth down 7 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC Championship game. But it really seemed like we were seeing something almost reminiscent of Brett Favre, not in the same way, but certainly in the sense that it was drama-filled happening in Green Bay. But today, Adam Schefter went on to the Dan Patrick Show, and this is what he had to say. The man who dropped the bomb about Aaron Rodgers wanting out had to say that he didn't have any direct sources for this story. That quote is, "It was nothing that morning that came in that all of a sudden said to me, yeah, he wants out. You should report this. It was just an accumulation of information." Okay. I respect that. I respect that mostly because Adam Schefter is pretty much being like, yeah, man, okay, I just wanted to be pretty messy on the draft day. I just wanted to break this crazy story, get everybody talking about me via Aaron Rodgers. There's no real sources, just vibes, man, just going for it. And I respect the hell out of that. Do whatever you can to get your name out there. But, so all of this seems to be stemming from something that wasn't true, just Adam Schefter's gut feeling. This is especially surprising, one, because Adam Schefter is very well respected and very much an insider. So anything that Adam Schefter is going to say is going to be, taken at face value. There was part of the reports being like they talked to team and league sources kind of confirming this, but I guess it's not true. So, will Aaron Rodgers stay in Green Bay? I think now, yeah. I think definitely. One, it's kind of trading Aaron Rodgers is sort of untenable, especially because he is, really highly priced, and the things you'd have to give up for him would. There's not very many teams that can both give up that much and also afford to pay him. I know the Dolphins have been linked by Dan Orlovsky. I don't know why everybody wants the Dolphins to trade Tua. I'm hoping that it will mean that he's going to be good at some point, but definitely a weird aside there, and something I'd be remiss if I didn't mention on here. But I am a little bit shocked that Adam Schefter just kind of went for it and was just like, yeah, man, I have a feeling in my bones that Aaron Rodgers is going to try to get out of Green Bay. And maybe it'll be true. We did get a report that Aaron Rodgers warned free agents, saying that he was not going to be around in 2021. But does that jive with reality, with Aaron Jones taking less money to stay with the Packers? I don't know. I would love to hear what you think in the comments down below. I'm just not buying it, especially now. Especially that Adam Schefter has backtracked, and maybe him and Aaron Rodgers are close, and Aaron Rodgers asked him to back off about it. But I don't know. Something doesn't smell quite right about this entire situation. Everybody, welcome back to Wicked Good Sports. I'm your host, Brian Martin. I'm joined today by our resident hockey expert, a man who's going to tell us about all the fisticuffs that are going down in the NHL and why they're happening, Mr. Chris Uminski. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing really well. So hockey's back. I think we can all say that while this may not be a good thing, it's definitely got people talking. So can you just shine some light on this Tom Wilson situation and why there are fights and pictures of crowded penalty boxes and what is happening? What is going on?
All right. So to tell the story from the beginning, so for some context, I have nothing against fighting in hockey. I think fighting is good for hockey. It adds another exciting level to the sport. I want to preface with that.
Okay.
So Tom Wilson is a notorious instigator with the Washington Capitals. He goes around, he tries to make people mad, he fights them. He's a very physical player, but that has gotten him into some trouble. A couple of years ago, he was just earlier this season, he was suspended for a hit to the head on the Bruins. Brandon Carlo, he's suspended for 7 games, and he's only just come back from that suspension.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of years before that, he was suspended 22 games during the preseason for a hit on the head.
Okay.
So Tom Wilson he has a history.
Okay.
So the other night when the Capitals met the New York Rangers for a game. Trying to think of how this all started. So Tom Wilson is by the Rangers net with Pavel Buchnevich, who is a player for the Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts when Wilson cross checks with his stick Buchnevich in the back of the neck.
Okay.
You can't do that. That's
a
no. That's how somebody gets seriously injured.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to the ground.
Right.
And then he's now on the ground. Wilson grabs him, pulls him up, starts punching him in the face. Then grabs his hair, pulls him down.
Jesus.
And is now being held on the ground with his stick.
Mm-hmm.
So then Artemi Panarin, who is another player for the Rangers, starts throwing some punches at Tom Wilson. Wilson then grabs him by the head, throws him down on the ice, and while he's down, starts punching him in the head.
Right.
And that's the incident. I don't know if my description really does it justice. But
yeah, if you haven't seen it, check it out so you can get the full context, because it's a very violent, even for hockey standards, a very violent interaction.
So Wilson gets a roughing penalty, and is sent to the box for 5 minutes.
Right.
And then so when a 5-minute penalty is assessed, the league is supposed to take a look at the hit and decide what the proper discipline will be. This is where all the drama really starts, is with the discipline portion.
Mm-hmm.
So the league takes a look at it, and everyone is saying Tom Wilson is going to get at least 1 game.
Right.
At least a 1-game suspension. He's a repeat offender. He has a history. He just came back from a suspension, and he's already hurting players.
Right.
Panarin, from his injuries, was unable to come back for the rest of the game. So the league comes back with their decision. He is fined $500,000.
Okay.
And that's it.
But he doesn't get suspended at all.
No suspension, and the $500,000 fine, or was it $500,000 or $50,000? It was a low fine.
Okay.
and it is the maximum allowed by the collective bargaining agreement that the league has with the Players Association.
Okay.
But that shouldn't bar them from being able to suspend him. He should have been suspended.
Right.
So the Rangers put out a statement on Twitter the next day, basically saying that the head of player safety, his name is George Paros, is unfit for the job.
Right.
Unfit for his job as the head of player safety. That night, the Rangers and the Capitals played each other for the first time after this, and my God, it is probably one of the best hockey games I have ever watched.
Yeah, so take us through that a little bit. I mean, the video that was going around was puck drop, fists are out right away.
Yes. And this is before Tom Wilson had even taken the ice. He ended up getting into a fight and getting hurt and taken out with an upper body injury. I think they just wanted to get him off the ice for his own safety.
Right, yeah, because he's a marked man at this point.
And as a result of all that, so the Rangers were fined $250,000 for their statement against George Paros by the league.
Okay.
They weren't happy with them bashing a league exec. And I have notes.
This is good. You prepared. I like it.
Yes. So Pavel Buchnevich, who was one of Wilson's targets from the last game, he's suspended for one game after this game last night.
So he gets suspended.
Capitals player.
Right.
He got suspended, but Tom Wilson is still allowed to play. Everyone thought he should have been suspended for the entire Capitals playoff run.
Right.
So that's that.
So yeah, like I said, it was as a casual hockey guy, it was a very interesting moment to be privy to see a game immediately starting with people just fighting. That's exciting, I think, personally.
Yes.
I don't want to.
Those are the best fans.
Yeah, I don't want to misrepresent it, but there is something alluring about hockey and the fact that they let them fight each other. It's
all these. There are unwritten rules that have written rules attached to them.
Right.
Which is unique for really any sport.
Yeah.
You're not these things into account.
You're not really gonna fight in any other sport, except for baseball, but that's like shoving usually. It's not really it's not a real fight. You don't have knives on your feet in baseball. Let's put it that way. But yeah, no, this is a very interesting situation. I think honestly, it's bad for the Rangers players who got injured. It looks bad, I guess, for the league for not suspending him, but I think it's kind of a net positive.
I have something with that. I just verified some of my information. Turns out I overstated the fine. The fine was $5,000.
Okay,
not so $500, not $50, $5,000.
So Tom Wilson gets a $5,000 fine, and the Rangers are kind of seems like bullshit, and they get fined $250,000 for that.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. How do you feel about that?
I've thought that NHL player safety has been a joke for years. This is not the first time that they've bungled one of these things. And I'm sure it will not be the last. A lot of it, I feel, has to do with the way that the Washington Capitals are viewed by the league. They're one of the top teams in the league. They're certainly the best American team at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean they just won the finals a couple years ago.
They draw a lot of fans, and they have legends like Alex Ovechkin playing for them. They're a well-funded team. There's a great fan base down in Washington. And I feel like the league is sort of coddling them because they don't want to upset that important fan base. But something that they ignored is that the New York Rangers, who are the victims in all of this, are the most profitable team in the league. And have the highest payroll. So, but the problem is that they're not as good, so the league isn't as interested in them.
That makes sense. So all this aside, like I said, I think this is good for hockey as a sport because it gets people talking about hockey. I feel like
Oh
people
yeah,
forget. I feel like people forget about hockey, and especially the playoffs in hockey are like the best.
especially in areas like the Midwest and the South where like kids didn't grow up playing hockey in Georgia or North
No, I
Carolina.
mean, yeah, of course. I mean,
Like it's not looked at
definitely.
the same way as it is in like New England or
Yeah.
Minnesota or Michigan or places like that where has a
Mhm.
very strong is a is an important part of the culture.
Right. Yeah. So I think this is good. I think in heading into the playoffs, get some heat going. Maybe you could turn this into a net positive. But speaking of the playoffs, we want to get into you're wearing the gear. The Boston Bruins have
Yes, sir.
clinched. So tell me about how they're doing right now as we transition, unless there's anything else you want to add to that topic.
So at this moment, the Bruins are actually playing their last regular season game against the New York Rangers, and they are. Last I checked, they were winning 2-0.
All right. Hey.
So they're looking very strong going into the playoffs. They're going to be playing the Washington. They're going to be playing the Washington Capitals. That's
Mhm.
already decided. We've got momentum on our side right now. The Capitals kind of have some negative juju going on with them,
Right.
um, which is which is going to be a distraction for them. And the Bruins
Mhm.
can come in there and take advantage of that. Taylor Hall and David Krejci are a match made in heaven on the second line. They're always putting up points together. The first line, Brad Marchand, is looking great. Patrice Bergeron is looking great. Pasternak is looking great. The only real drama that's going on right now is with the goalie situation.
Okay. Tell me about
We
that.
already know that Tuukka Rask is going to be the starter going forward
Mhm.
for the goalies. But now the fight is going to be over that number 2 spot. Yaroslav Halak, who's held that for so long, his job is in danger right now. He played the other night, took a very rough last shot in the overtime.
Mhm.
He was not happy about that. He didn't play a great game. He just came
Mhm.
back from a month of COVID protocol.
Right.
He's looking a little rusty. While on the other hand, this rookie Jeremy Swayman out of UMaine has been dominant, and they're already calling him one of the best upstart goalies
Mhm.
in the league. And so right now there's a question: who's gonna be the backup for the playoffs? Is it gonna be Halak or is it gonna be Swayman?
Mhm.
And Halak knows that his job is in danger. Swayman, I think, is ready
Right.
to take it on. Yeah, going into the playoff, I'm optimistic about the playoffs this year.
Do you think being from the University of Maine, does he have a lot of like the Boston fans behind him? You know, I mean,
Yes.
New England people are very loyal to people from like the area who people went to college. I feel so. I feel like him going to University of Maine is a big thing for him in terms of fan support. Is that accurate to say?
It was very exciting for people. I actually know some people who went to UMaine with him
Mm,
and had the opportunity to know Jeremy Swayman. They were all very excited when he got drafted by the Boston Bruins.
yeah, dream come true.
Like that's every kid who grows up in New England wants to grow up to play for the Red Sox, play for the Patriots, play for the
Mm,
Blue, play for the Bruins, play for the Celtics. Like we love our hometown teams here, so
right.
it's huge when we can see one of our kids grow up and do that.
Mm. So yeah, I think that's gonna be. It's tough. It's tough because the old adage is you never lose your job because of injury, but we know that's not true. And while he
Yeah,
was out for COVID, well, people in New England know that's not true more than most, considering Bledsoe kind of lost his job due to an injury way back when. But yeah, no, I think it's a tough situation for him. But hey, I mean, you gotta do what's best for the team, and if you gotta ride the hot hand, especially at a position like goalie, where kind of important, I would say. A
yeah.
little bit, especially in the playoffs. You got to do what you got to do. So, is there anything? Are you at all concerned that Tom Wilson is going to be on that ice against the Bruins in the playoffs?
I'm more concerned that nobody's gonna do anything about him on
Mm,
the ice. I'd like to see. I'm not condoning violence, but I wouldn't hate it if somebody roughed him up a little bit during the games. Brad Marchand, I'm sure, will get under his skin.
Yeah, I would say pretty likely. The other big storyline of this series would be Chara, our boy for so many years, is coming back to Boston, but as an adversary now. How
Yes.
what's the feel on that? How's Chara, one? How's he doing in Washington, and two? Can you kind of track the feelings people may have of this series because of that?
Well, Chara's doing great with the Capitals. That's a great fit for him. It's where he wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always going to be a special place in my heart for
Of
Zdeno
course.
Chara. He's been such an important part of the Bruins for the last, I don't even know how long, as long as I can
Right.
remember.
Mm-hmm.
Big Z, we call him. He will get a warm reception coming back, even as an adversary.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do guilt by association.
Right.
Um, I actually like Zdeno Chara being on that team because maybe he's somebody that can get through to Tom Wilson, who's still young. There's still time for him to turn over a new leaf.
Right. Yeah. So I guess the only question left is what's your prediction for the series?
I think it's going to be a tough series. The Capitals are the number one seed going in. They're an obvious favorite. Like I said, the Bruins have momentum
Mm-hmm.
on their side. They've really first and second lines have definitely got it figured out. And if they can take advantage of some of the problems that the Capitals are having, controlling their own players, staying out of the
Right.
penalty box, and weak holes in that their defense sometimes has. If they
Mm-hmm.
can take advantage of that, then I think that we can hold our own and make it a competitive series.
All right. So I guess, what do you think? Who's going to come out on top in how many games? What's your call?
You know what? I'm going to be bold. I'm going to say the Bruins will do it in 3.
All right, you heard it here first. Bruins in 3. Let's hope that's the case, and let's hope we got a long playoff run ahead of us. I mean, we'll still be talking about the playoffs even if the Bruins get knocked out, but it'd be nice to talk about the Bruins for a while going on here. Because, like I said at the top, I think hockey has just probably the best playoffs in all the major sports.
There's nothing like playoff hockey.
Yeah, so we'll all be watching, of course. Chris, is there anything else you want to add before we get on out of here?
I guess the last bit of exciting news for the NHL is that there's a brand new team operational starting this week.
Okay, I forgot about this.
Seattle Kraken are
I
officially
like the
in
name.
the NHL now. They made their final payment. They can sign players, make trades, do all that good stuff leading up to their expansion draft this summer.
All right, so we'll definitely be talking more about that in the future, especially as signings and the expansion draft goes. Hey, good for Seattle. Seattle's a great city, having been, and I think they will appreciate having a hockey team there. The Kraken is a fucking great name for a hockey team, I have to say. So looking forward to them, getting everything going and see. And I think hey, we just had the Vegas Knights join the league, and that was a really big success. I mean,
I love the Knights
in the finals, and they're in Vegas. Vegas is, it's really going right now with them and the Raiders there now. So I think once stuff opens back up and once COVID, allows people to actually go and see, I think we'll, be in a good place for Vegas sports. So yeah, just an exciting time for the NHL in general.
Yes.
All right, Chris, where can they find you online?
So you can find me on Twitter. I'm Chris_Uminski. And I post a lot of hockey news there and some other stuff. And if you're into a more casual experience, I am on Facebook.
All right, go check him out there. Of course, Brian Marr. You can find me on Twitter at @FakeMeMarr. This channel is Wicked Good Sports. The main channel is youtube.com/WickedGoodEverything. We also have a podcast channel, youtube.com/BetterRadio. Follow the channel on Twitter at WEverything, on Instagram at Wicked Everything, and Twitch at twitch.tv/WickedEverything, and on TikTok, check out check us out there. Search Wicked Good Everything. I know it's always so long-winded at the end of these, Chris. I'm always like, I don't want to forget, but also I don't want to take 5 minutes. But hey, thank you so much for your time, and yeah, go Bruins.
Go Bruins.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Wicked Good Sports. I'm your host, Brian Marr, and I'm joined, as always, for the At the Buzzer segment by Jack Tiernan. Jack, how you doing?
Brian, I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me on again.
Hey, thank you so much for coming on. So we usually talk Celtics, or sometimes we talk about Steph Curry when he's lighting it up, which he hasn't stopped doing since we've last spoken. But today we want to get in on what a few years ago would have just been like hammering the trending topics of the Ball family, but I think things have settled down a little bit. But you want to talk a little bit about Lamelo Ball and if he can win Rookie of the Year coming back off an injury.
Man, Lamelo. Let's start with this. The reason that he was so highly touted to begin with was because of that name, right? The whole Ball family was the big deal. Mostly LeVar, honestly, and LeVar is kind of like nobody cares about LeVar. He's a psycho now. So,
but at the time, amazing marketer. At the time, he went from nothing to being on ESPN talking shit. I can beat Michael Jordan 1-on-1. But
You're right. It's kind of like a head-turning method, but it worked, right? Mm-hmm. Look at, all of his boys got drafted probably higher, at least Lonzo, probably higher than he should have been, And then there's LaMelo, who looks like he should have been drafted probably higher than he should have been, higher than he was, rather. But LaMelo is one of the, pretty much, someone said it, I think it was Stephen A., said that LaMelo is what we were all promised Lonzo would be, And I was like, wow, that's way too, it's way too real, man. I'm just like, okay, that's super accurate. LaMelo's flashy. He's got like elite ball handling skills, obviously. Court vision is like otherworldly, man. I think watching that and watching his performance, even without missing a beat, really, from being out a month and a half, is just that's deserving in my book. If I had to pick, his only other competition is like Anthony Edwards on the T-Wolves, and that's a bad team, frankly. And now the Hornets team is on the fringe of the playoffs.
Yeah, so I guess what is LaMelo meant to this Hornets team, especially coming down the stretch, like you said, being on the verge of the playoffs?
Yeah, so the Hornets as a team are pretty gritty, right? They're kind of like, we had a couple of guys, basically they're Boston 2.0 now, right? They've got Terry Rozier, Brad Wanamaker, Gordon Hayward, somehow find a way to bring this back to Boston, of course. But, right, have to represent here. So you add, you've got scoring threats in Hayward and Rozier. You've got a floor general now in LaMelo Ball, who really can run the offense and let Terry Rozier play off ball a little bit, which is more of his game as is. So I think he's the piece that these guys need. The thing with the Hornets is that they're super explosive and their defense is like probably middle of the pack, I would say. I don't know where they rank defensively in the league right now, but I don't think that they're anything special. They've got to score a lot of points to win, though, basically.
Right.
With LaMelo at the helm, though, it's a lot easier to do that than forcing Terry into the one and having him distribute, because now Terry can just shoot his shot while LaMelo can do everything else.
Right, yeah. So I guess I want to talk a little bit about his stats since he's been back.
Yeah. So he's been, since he's been back, I'm looking at his stats here, clearly on an upward swing, which is awesome. His first 3 games back were 11 points, 14 points, 23 points. Rebounds and steals all relatively standard. He's got 2 7-rebound games, couple of averages 6.5 assists a game since he's been back. Those are some pretty good numbers. Those aren't pedestrian by any means. You're putting up 17 points a game on an already loaded offensive team. You got Miles Bridges, Terry Rozier, again, Gordon Hayward is back. So it's man, the fact that he's able to still put up these numbers after being gone for essentially a month and just come right back in and slot into that offense, I think says a lot about him as a player, as well as that team.
So what do you think their chances are to make the playoffs now that he's back?
I think they're in almost 100%. They'll definitely get into the play-in game, and I think that if you've got everybody 100%, I think it's a pretty good chance to play. There's still so much going on with the play-ins right now where, the seeding in the East is so close from, the 4th seed down, basically. You got Milwaukee, in no particular order. It's Brooklyn, Philadelphia, Milwaukee is the top 3 seeds, pretty much locked.
Mm.
And then 4 down, you've got like the Knicks, Atlanta, etc. And it's kind of all a jumble, right? They're all within like 2-3 games of each other. So, I don't know where the Hornets are going to land up. They might play the Celtics. They might play Atlanta. Those are probably the 2 likeliest. And I think honestly, the Hornets in the play-in game there's a good chance they could beat both.
Right. So I guess, what do you think it would mean for his, I guess, campaign? I don't know if that's the right word, but what do you think?
I think
his
so.
Odds to win Rookie of the Year, given he's missed time, if he's able to come back and lead the Hornets to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think odds is probably better. I think you're right. But I think if he can come back and lead them to the playoffs, I think I'm gonna campaign for him against Ant Edwards, right? Because those are kind of the 2 front runners at this point. Tyrese Halliburton's good too, but he's definitely like second fiddle to both of them. It sucks, but it is what it is. Anyway, Ant Edwards is a decent player on a bad team who's already kind of got, they've already got their stars. I think Lamelo is emerging as a star on a team that already is loaded and didn't at least before this season have an identity of like, okay, who can we run this offense through, right? Again, in Minnesota, you have Karl Anthony Towns, you've got D'Angelo Russell, who granted got over there last season in a trade, but like he just kind of slotted in, Anthony Edwards that is, and hasn't really made that much of an impact compared to Lamelo, who comes in and you see highlights of Lamelo on SportsCenter, on ESPN all the time. Granted, that's just your reporting, but even still, I think Lamelo is just, I think he's got the explosiveness, he's got the brand recognition, I think he's got everything.
Yeah. So, hey, we'll see, right? Little transition here. So from one fringe playoff team to another, again, we're going to go back to Steph Curry. We had a conversation earlier in the week, texting back and forth about what qualifies an MVP. Because, like, if you're individually great, but your team doesn't have success, does that warrant you being the MVP? And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, especially when it, pertains to Steph Curry.
Man, I love this discussion. I love this debate, right? Because there are a lot of ways you can look at it, and I don't think there's one correct way. I think it depends. And then it comes back to, okay, what weighs differently on a certain team, right? Because Steph Curry, let's talk Steph Curry, because the dude is putting this team on his back, and it still might not be enough. So you have to respect his effort, right? You have to say, okay, Steph is having an unbelievable season. He's putting up like 40 points a game, but the team's not good. So, okay, is Steph the most valuable player to this team that isn't going to go anywhere in the playoffs? Or do you look towards a team that is surging right now with one clear distributor and contributor? I can say that for Jokic, for example, because he's probably the only other guy Steph has to compete with, aside from Embiid, maybe. But you got Jokic, who does literally everything, man. He averages like 10 assists a game, 10 rebounds a game. Like, it puts up stupid points. And that was when he was with Jamal Murray. Now that Jamal's gone, he's still going crazy. Like, they won, I think it was like they went 8-2 without Jamal after he tore his ACL or whatever it was.
Right.
I think that quantifies, like, look, you're able to put a good team on your back compared to Steph, who is trying to put a bad team on his back, and the result is very different. So I mean, if I had to pick, I think my MVP is Jokic. I think Steph is, I think Steph's elite. I think he's great, but it hasn't been enough.
Yeah, I think it's hard because it reminds me quite a bit about Adrian Peterson the year he won MVP. He ran for 2,000 yards. He literally did everything he possibly could and was rewarded with Joe Webb starting a playoff game against the Packers, which went very poorly for everyone who remembers that. And it's just a hard thing because, like, MVP, the most valuable player, but if the value isn't there, if your team doesn't get anywhere, what is the value? What, like, it's not best offensive player. It's not, most explosive player, most entertaining player. It's supposed to be, because it's valuable, it's supposed to have an inherent value, and that value is success. And if your team is still losing, then you're not as valuable. I don't know. I'd love to hear people
Yeah.
kind of debate us on that, but I don't know.
No, I'm with you, man. I agree completely, but I like hearing the other side of the argument. I'd like to hear something come back from us.
Yeah, because, I mean, of course, the other side is if Steph Curry wasn't there, what would this team look like? I mean, we got a little bit of that last year, right? Where
yeah.
really bad.
Gross. A gross team.
Yeah, so it's like, what... I think it comes back to how do you measure value in sports? And I think it's playoff appearances. I think it's team success. And if your team isn't having success, then what you're providing doesn't have inherent value. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you can put up 40 points a night and not make the playoffs. What value do you have? You know, I know it's shitty to say because Steph is an elite player, right?
Yeah.
But man, just everybody around him is still so bad. Just unfortunate.
Yeah, it's been a really strange and disappointing end to this Warriors team that looked like they were just gonna dominate forever.
And I'm sure we can. I'm gonna tease this a little bit, right? Though you think about what value did Kevin Durant have for that team? Was Kevin Durant the reason of their success after their first championship? And would they have made it even that far without him?
Yeah, I mean, Finals MVP for Durant, during that run, he really was a huge part. No pun intended. Obviously, he's a giant man, but he really was a big part of that team and a big part of their success. And without him, it's been surprising to say the least to see the Warriors struggle so much. So, I mean, those are our opinions, and we'd love to hear yours in the comments down below. Are we idiots? Are we looking at this wrong? Because I do think there are different, awards, maybe not in basketball necessarily, but there are different accolades that you can give to players who do pop off statistically, but aren't providing that value. I think it's a different tier for the MVP. But hey, like I said, I'd love to hear about it. Jack, is there anything else you want to touch on before we get on out of here?
No, man, I think that's it. I guess I hold your breath if you're a Celtics fan because we got a bumpy couple of weeks coming up, man.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they win. We have a lot more discussions about the Celtics going forward. If not, we'll find stuff to talk about, I'm sure.
Of course.
With the playoffs. But Jack, thank you so much for your time. And where can we find you online?
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it, man. So easiest place to find me with some awful Celtics takes probably are Jack_Tiernan at twitter.com. It's not an email address, but go follow me on Twitter. I've got some potentially good, potentially very bad Celtics takes. Go give me a look and tell me how you think.
And you can follow me online on Twitter at @thefakeMar, BMARR. I probably just have bad takes about everything, let alone the Celtics. So if you're into that, check me out there.
Fire you up.
Yeah, exactly.
If nothing else.
Anything else? You can follow us, the channel as a whole, on Twitter at WGEverything, on Instagram at WickedGetEverything, and on Twitch at twitch.tv/WickedGetEverything. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.